to the Deeksha orientation webinar. We will be discussing the following items: why, how, and what by Sree Balaji, personal experience shared by Vijaya Vijwanathan, Deeksha classes information by Sangeeta Bhari. Sree Balaji will mention why, what is Agastya, what we are doing, and why we are doing that. I'm just going to pass it over to Sree Balaji.
Dhanyawada Bhagini. Namaste. Namaste everybody. So I'm going to talk about what is Agastya Gurukulam and what is Deeksha, then why Deeksha, and then also try to cover the what, meaning what is the how are we going to teach, what does the course entail, and so on and so forth. So let me get started here. So first, just an introduction about Agastya Gurukulam. If I have to say that in 2 words, I would say what Agastya Gurukulam does is decolonizing education. As you know, our education that was practiced about 200 years back across various schools in India was abolished by the British, and a new system called the Macaulay school system was put in place. All of us are products of the Macaulay school system. Unfortunately, the Macaulay school system does not cover a lot of things that were covered in the previous school system that can be very relevant to even the modern world, and our kids can benefit out of it in a very big way. So the idea of Agastya is to build that school system back so that we can learn something very useful, and our kids can actually be successful based on such knowledge. And our team comprises of professionals who have knowledge in this area, and also people who have been traditionally educated in Indic knowledge. So it's a really good combination of people who understand modernity and know what is success in the modern world, and at the same time we have the side of Agastya that understands or has a deep understanding of Indic knowledge as well. So moving on. Can you go to the next slide, please?
Actually, I did. Are you not able to see it?
No, it's not coming through yet. So might take a minute. Yeah. So
okay.
In a study done by an affiliated organization to United Nations, they have laid out 16 different skills that can make our next generation be successful in the 21st century. And you can see that these skills are not all covered by today's school system. And Agastya's effort is to help provide that 360-degree coverage, which means that Agastya will not only cover those aspects that you see on the right side, the character qualities like curiosity, initiative, persistence, grit, adaptability, leadership, and social and cultural awareness. Agastya will also cover knowledge that is on science and technology side, mathematics, and so on and so forth. So we would provide kids with the STEM knowledge, and we would also provide kids with knowledge of language, knowledge of the cultural aspects that can make them really rooted in Indic culture, and at the same time understand problems and solve them in an Indic way. I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. So let's move on to the next slide. So this kind of knowledge that is this kind of school system that is 360-degree from a value and scientific and logical knowledge perspective can be really helpful in building a well-rounded individual when they come out of the school system, and that builds a lot of confidence in the kid as the kid understands a lot of these concepts from a very indigenous standpoint, given that the kid has a good sense of history and knowledge of solutions that are very Indic, and at the same time be very relevant to the modern world. So our setup, our education, we believe, helps in building a very good Indian EQ for your kids, and also helps in building newer pathways to solve problems, whether these are problems in mathematics or real world problems that they may face. Typically, the school system is very the current school system, that is the Macaulay based school system, is very unidimensional, and the school system that we had back in India during the pre-Macaulay days had multiple solutions to the same problem, and that kind of helps our kids in building newer pathways in their mind in solving problems in the real world, and also in math and science and so on. This also helps in retaining our symbols, and as I said earlier, kind of builds a sense of history in our kids that can make our kids be confident and successful in the real world. Moving on. So I'm going to talk about Deeksha. Deeksha is this 8-week program that we are going to conduct, or we just started the Deeksha classes this week. This week's classes are all kind of preview classes that we're doing. Next week onwards, we're going to have 3-hour classes that we'll be conducting. The reason we chose 8 weeks is because of what's happening all around the world with the coronavirus scare, and kids are all staying home, not a whole lot to do. So we wanted to kind of give them a sneak peek of what the pre-Macaulay school system was like. And we believe that, you know, as they continue to go through this 8-week of coursework, they're going to fall in love with this and would want to stay back and be part of the online school that we are planning to start next year. And that would be like a full-time school, meaning that will be an alternate school system that you guys want to consider, as this school system covers, as I said, not only what is taught from a cultural perspective, but also covers modern aspects taught from a Shastric standpoint, right? And we believe that this 8 weeks will give you guys and your kids some real good exposure to what we are talking about. And we believe that classical Indian education can help your kids be more successful than the regular kids who come out of the regular school system. And this would, from the kids' perspective, and you know, from your perspective too, would be a fresh breath of air that can build real innovative and innovative kids who can actually think through problems and solve them in a very different way in the modern world, and can maybe tomorrow go on to become entrepreneurs and professionals who would have a completely different set of solutions that can be very meaningful to tomorrow's world. Moving on to the next slide. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the subjects that we will teach in this 8 weeks. Let's go to the next slide. So the way the program is outlined, we'll start with Prarthana, and then we will move on to teach them some interesting shlokas, and then we will also teach them some memorization that is very much part of our old school system. So it starts with, can you go back to the previous slide? So the initial class starts with Panchanga Patanam. Panchanga Patanam is to be able to understand the astronomy of Esther years, which resulted in a calendar that's more accurate than any other in today's world. Unfortunately, we are not following our own calendar today. We are following the Western calendar today, which is actually not so accurate. As we all know, we keep fixing it with a leap day here and there, and then the 12 months are also divided in a very arbitrary way, and so on and so forth. So, but our calendar is really accurate, very aligned with natural cycles of the sun and the moon. So we would like for them to learn that at the beginning of the day, and then we will also, these guys would also learn what happened in history on that given day, at the beginning of every day. And so that's how the class starts. Let's move on. So the next part would be Kantasthikaranam, which is actually memorization. As you know, memorization is coming back again. Earlier, about like 10-15 years back, the Western world was actually deriding the whole idea of memorizing stuff. Now, all over the Western world, they're understanding the importance of memorization, and there are now memory bees that are going on all over the US at this time. And you also have a very good understanding in the Western world of what memorization can do to kids at a very early age, and how that can be very advantageous throughout their career. So now that they are coming to that realization, which is very good in the Western world for them, but we've always had that, and we would like to ensure that we memorize some really important aspects of Sanskritam. We would start with Ashtadhyayi, which is actually Paninian grammatical text for Paninian grammar, and then we'll also be teaching them memorizing Amarakosha, which is actually the thesaurus, and we had the practice of memorizing the thesaurus to build vocabulary. So through this, we expect the kids to build good vocabulary and retention skills. Moving on. So the next topic will be Sanskritam, and Sanskritam we are going to cover three important aspects. One is Pathanam, then next is Lekhanam, and third is Sambhashanam. Pathanam is actually to be able to read Sanskritam, Lekhanam is to write Sanskritam, and Sambhashanam is to be able to converse in Sanskritam. And we are also, as part of this class, we are also going to be helping them understand the entire Aksharamala, which is like, for you to write, you need to understand the entire Aksharamala, and to be able to make words and sentences with the Aksharamala. So that's the idea for this 8 weeks. Given that we are going to have the attention of your kids for 5 days a week, we really believe that a lot can be achieved through this. Is, by the end of these 8 weeks, you will see them conversing in Sanskritam using simple sentences, being able to understand simple shlokas that you may have taught them already, or maybe you are chanting, they may be able to actually tell you the meaning of some of these shlokas also. Moving on. So in Ganitam, we are going to be using this very important text written by Bhaskaracharya called Leelavati. Within Leelavati, we have the Parikarmashtakam, which gives you the ability to understand various techniques of standard operations like multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, and so on. So we are going to cover quite a bit of that in this 8 weeks. And the author of Leelavati has got some very interesting ways of doing these operations, which your kids may not have learned in school, if they've already learned some of these in school. And another thing that we're going to add to this is actually the tables. As you know, today we have lost the tradition of memorizing multiplication tables. Your kids will memorize multiplication tables in Sanskritam, and if time permits, they will also memorize tables of fractions. We had the tradition of memorizing the tables like the 1/4 table, the 1/8 table, and so on. So the idea is in the online school, the kids would actually memorize up to a table of 24, and they would also memorize several fraction tables as well. So we would cover all that in the Ganitam part. Moving on. So sorry to let me step back there. We will not cover all the 24 tables because we only have 8 weeks. We'll cover a little bit. I know maybe we would cover up to about 10 table of 10, but in the online school we would cover all the way up to 24. So just wanted to clarify that. And the next thing we're going to do is Bharatiya Itihasa, which is history. So history, as we know it from our textbooks, have a lot of intended mistakes that have been created by the Britishers and then later by the communist historians. So we will be teaching the real history of India, which of course starts with our Itihasa Purushas, the Purana Purushas, and then further down we have great kings and poets and philosophers or acharyas and so on. So they will learn few of them. Here we're going to be covering the story of Cholas, temple architecture, the story of Pythagoras, which is very important because to be able to understand the Indian roots of Western mathematics and Indian roots of Western philosophy, to understand the story of Pythagoras is very important. Another thing that we want to cover here is actually Achara, Ahara, Aushadha Niyamas, which is very important aspect of daily living, which is the Dinacharya aspect. In fact, you'd be surprised to know a lot of this social distancing and other things that are being advocated now because of coronavirus is very much inbuilt into our samskaras and the achara niyamas at home. So we wanted to help the kids understand these both from a scientific perspective and also from our traditional perspective. So this is what we are going to cover. So I think Itihasa Purana we already covered. We're going to talk about stories from Ramayana and Mahabharata. So from a Samskriti standpoint, I think Achara Niyamaha, which I've already mentioned, and Paka Shastra, we'll be showing them some simple things from the kitchen to make them understand the various ingredients we use, the various herbs that we use, and cereals and pulses and so on, so that they would have an understanding of the depth in our Indian kitchen as well. So we'll be covering some of that too. That'll help them understand the Indian way of life overall. And finally, there is going to be a class once in every few days, which is called Kids Time, where they would be able to express themselves. And that's going to be just for an hour once in a few days, and then once a month we're going to have a kids day, which is in this case you'll have 2 kids days where they it'll be a lot of student expression, so that they can think through things and have some interesting discussions and be able to present ideas and so on. We will of course guide them through these activities, but we would like to help them build good creativity and confidence in themselves through this kids time aspect. Moving on. So these are the teachers who will be teaching the courses. So I'll be teaching along with Jayashree ji, who's on the call. I'll be teaching Bharatiya Itihasa, and Jayashree ji will also be teaching Sanskriti. And then Samskrita will be taught by Aparajit, who's an MA in Sanskritam and has also got a lot of relevant experience in the modern world. He is working for TCS for some 5 or 6 years. Then he quit and did an MA in Sanskritam, and he's got an engineering degree, and so very well rounded from both sides. So Aparajit will be covering Sanskritam along with Hari Krishna ji, who also is from a very authentic Patashala called Veda Vijnana Gurukulam that teaches both modern and traditional learning in Karnataka, and he's now based out of Toronto, so he'd be covering the kids who are in the international batch. And I think I've covered pretty much those people. So moving on, now I'd like to pass on control to Vijayaji. Vijayaji is a very accomplished, successful Nari Mani. She is the mother of 2 kids who've actually been through a very similar program that Vijayaji herself put together by connecting with a lot of teachers of Shastra, and at the same time homeschooling her kids for modern education. So combining these two, she's been able to achieve some really great results with her 2 sons. One of them is in Stanford right now doing his bachelor's in computer science. The other one is like ready to go to one of these Ivy League schools as well. So I let Vijayaji tell her experience and how she has raised decolonized kids. Vijayaji.
Namaste, everybody. As Balaji said, that this education is something that we've all missed out as a generation of parents, and what we are trying to do here is to through an online process and through the teachers that we can get, we're trying to impart some of these things to the kids. Now, one of the things that I want to say up front is that Agastya Gurukulam is run by people who are really passionate about education and finding custodians for Indian traditional education. And the reason we are passionate is that not just for emotional reasons, but for the fact that this kind of education has relevance in the modern world. Now, when I started home educating my kids because they did not have I couldn't find something like Agastya to support me in my educational needs, and so I had to start looking for, and first of all I had to start learning as to what was important, and secondly finding teachers and curriculum and curricula to sort of meet those needs. The process that I used is similar to what Balaji spoke about, where there's a lot of Kantastikaranam in the early years, and I think most of the kids that join our program join early, and it's the hard part. It's easy. Actually, you will find many teachers in the middle school or high school or even college level, but to find good teachers in the early education, in the elementary years, are very difficult, because it's a pain to teach young children the akshara and whether it's music, to teach sarigama all the way till geetam is hard, but once you're there, then you can find many teachers that will take you on. Similarly, to teach phonics and ABC even in English language is hard, but then once the kid knows how to read, then there'll be enough teachers that teach you literature and things like that. So what we're doing is we've embarked on a very tough task of taking really young kids and sort of showing parents also, educating the parents also along the way as to what constitutes a good foundation. So just briefly we'll go through what my 2 boys have been through. So they have learned Sanskritam, it's Sambhashanam, Patanam, Lekhanam, like Balaji mentioned, and they even volunteered to teach for Samskrita Bharati as a way of doing some seva, and give back what they learned. So and they followed, they straddled between a modern track and the traditional track. So Shastriya Sangeetam was a big part of it. Ganitam to some extent, Vyakaranam. My older one is now has done some work in Vyakarana. My younger one is also doing some. So when you learn Sanskritam well, what happens is a lot of Indian Shastras open up to you. So you can get into Ganita or Ayurveda or any of these fields of knowledge, and then there's no limit to what your child can do based on their interests. So if they're interested in performing arts, there is the Natya Shastra. So there are lots of things, and these things are extremely relevant because I was just talking to somebody the other day, and they were trying to develop, I heard what they were trying to develop, a Fitbit based on the Panchanadi system of the Ayurveda. So these are not, we are training our kids to be creative and all of that, but actually there is a very concrete end result in all of this, where it teaches them to be innovative and creative and find careers that are totally different than what the modern education offers. So my older one is now, actually he's never actually programmed in his high school days like most kids do, but he was very strong. I mean, he's even done some Tarka Shastra, very strong in logic and Sanskrit, and then of course mathematics, and he's never programmed. And now he's doing computer science in Stanford University, and he's taking the highest possible courses at his in his cohort. So what I want to tell you is that this sort of education actually prepares you extremely well for the modern higher education in the universities when you mainstream them. I mean, for me, it was mainstreaming because they were homeschooled, but it prepares you really well. And similarly, in our Shastras, there's actually the line between music and mathematics and Sanskritam, all and Chandas, all kind of a blur, because we don't have sort of silos, fields which are like silos in an individual box. So the ability to connect these seemingly unconnectable dots is also something that they will learn when they go through this sort of an education. So all I can tell you is that it's extremely relevant. It makes your children creative and curious about learning. It makes them good learners, is what I would tell you. So I mean, the idea is to create lifelong learners, and then and then what they learn is immaterial. But this sort of an education kind of gives them a love for learning. And I think Balaji always mentions this sort of Ganitam will give you the rasa for mathematics. Mathematics is no more dry, and it has this it's embedded in poetry, and which has great prosody, and then there is mathematics, and there's a little mental picture of a problem with application. So it's just so multifaceted. So I think we've missed out a few generations on this sort of education, and we need to really jumpstart it. So we are a bunch of people that are extremely passionate about giving the next generation what was lost. And hopefully you guys your children will be great recipients of this kind of a program. Thank you.
Dhanyawada Vijayabhumi, Dhanyawada Sree Balaji. Yeah, so I'm Sangeeta Bhari, which is giving you some more information about the Deeksha online classes. This is actually a sneak preview at our various subjects that we are offering, the preview classes. It's open to parents and kids both to attend. We started them this week from 23rd onwards, this Monday. It's one class per day. It lasts from 45 to 60 minutes based on the Q&A session. The details are listed on our website. What we have remaining for today, tomorrow, day after, for the 25th, 26th, 27th, is Sanskritam, Ganitam, and Ityasa. Batch information, we have right now 2 batches, Deeksha India for kids in India, and Deeksha International for the kids, for NRI kids. It's parented class, they can watch with the kids if they feel that their kid requires someone to sit with them in order for them to focus. But if they think that they can manage on their own, that's fine as well. We are right now taking 20 students per batch. It's 8 weeks long, starting March 30th till end of May. Every day it will be a 3 hours classes, Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Each class is about 45 minutes. So we'll have some breaks in between as well. 8 to 6 to 9. Class requirements, some form of computer, a laptop or a PC with a mic and a headphone so they can hear and we can hear them as well and see them. It's like I mentioned, it's a parented class, but we are okay with if your hands away. What the expectation is that you want your kid to be attentive, on time, responsive, follow simple directions, and do their homework. We would really appreciate if they don't chat with the other students during the sessions are going on, and no food allowed during the classes. When they have the break, they are more than welcome to eat or drink whatever they feel like. Some of the things that, key requirements we want them to do every day before they join the classes is Dincharya Padhati, which is basically, some form of, they know some asanas, do some asanas or some exercise 10 minutes every day. Make sure you take a shower before you come for the class. Make sure you do Pritru Vandanam, do some sort of pratna, whatever. You can do a Gayatri Mantra job or do a shloka or whatever you feel like doing in the morning. And offering to, some form of living animal. We will actually talk about all this in our class as well, why this is important, what's the relevance. Moving on, we are offering a free 2-week trial period where, you can attend the classes for free for the first 2 weeks. The only thing we require from you is that you do not miss a single class because, we want to make sure that you're serious and committed. However, if you miss a class during the free trial, we would require you to pay for the program in order for you to continue participation. Deeksha batches are actually full right now. We are only accepting waitlist. So for the Deeksha India batch, please visit our website and please register to be added onto the waitlist. Deeksha International, the same thing. Please go to our website and register to be added onto the waitlist. I think we can open up to the Q&A if anyone has any questions, or Jayashree, if anyone has sent out any questions your way.
Yeah, Sangeeta ji, we have one question from Srinivas ji, which says, I'm really keen for my 12-year-old to join Deeksha. Can he?
Yes, he can absolutely join. However, I would like to mention that it's actually a beginner level course. So if he's at a beginner's level, he's more than welcome to join. But we would like to mention at this point that, the pace might be slow for him. So there we have the free trial for 2 weeks for you to try out and see if the pace is right for him, and you're more than welcome. I hope that answers.
Yeah, thank you, Sangeeta ji.
Do we have anything else? Okay. Anything else, Jayashree, or are we good for the Q&A?
I think we are done with the questions. Yeah, I don't see any more questions. Okay, there is one other thing. Again by Srinivas ji, we live in Australia. Should I register him in international class?
Yes, yes. Even though if you think the international class time will not work for him, you can let us know, but we would expect the NRI kids to register in the international class, and then we can see if we can make him attend the India batch. Do we have any other questions, Jayashree, or are we good?
I think that is all. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's good. I'm just going to quickly ask Sree Varya if she has anything to add, or Vijayaji if she has anything to add, and then we can wrap it up.
I'm good. I think we have covered the main aspects, and we are really looking forward to you guys registering and taking advantage of this coursework that we have for 8 weeks. And we like the coursework, and your kids like the coursework especially. We'd love for them to join the online school starting fall this year.
So we might just want to talk a little bit about the online school, Sangeeta, that we are thinking about.
So the online school is like a regular school that would have not just these subjects, but it will also cover subjects like science and regional languages as well. So we are planning to cover about 3 or 4 regional languages to begin with. So outside of whatever you're seeing in this coursework that we just outlined, you would be covering science and regional languages. The online school would begin with a camp in India during summer, if the coronavirus thing goes away on time for us. And then post summer and during the camp, the kids will also get exposed to Kalari and which is Indian martial art, and the kids will also get exposure to yoga, so that they can come back and practice that at home on a regular basis. We'll have another camp. We are planning to have one camp in India, one camp in the US during December for about a week's time, where the kids will all come together and be able to kind of mingle and play together and so on, as they may be seeing each other on a daily basis online. So it'll always be good for them to meet for a considerable amount of time offline as well. So that's a plan. So we'll have 2 shibirams or 2 camps, and then followed by weekly classes, the daily classes, which will have a few additional subjects than what we will be covering in this 8-week class. Anything else, Vijayaji, that you want us to cover?
No,
yeah, I just want to say that we'll have English as well. Sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Vijayaji.
No, I just wanted to say, for people who are considering education from home education, this would be a good way to check it out. In some ways, it'll give you some support to try out home education. Again, it's not for everybody. Home education is not for everybody, but it'll give you some support when you're trying to explore alternate forms of education. So this is the program that we're talking about in the fall.
Sangeeta ji, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was just saying that we'll also be teaching the English in the online school.
Yeah, Mr. Onam, yeah, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think that's all. That's all I had. All right. I think that's it. So thank you, Dhanyawala, everyone. If you have any questions, anything, please feel free to email us at any time. And we're looking forward to hearing from you. Dhanyawala.
Dhanyawala.